Good evening and welcome to Worldview. We are live on GBC 24. My name is George Asikri. If you've been wondering what you do in your country, Ghana, but in the meantime, Worldview is the program where we tell the story of Africa. So if you are in Ghana and you think of Africa, you might have heard of one common term. There's a musician called Samuel Owusu, and another one, Tommy Redu. Tommy Redu has a track that goes like Afibia wansemo esisi, Abosuya bia wansemo awomo, Onipa bia wanehano. That simply means that every year comes with its own problems. Every family has its own problems, and every individual has his or her own problems. In Ghana, we call Mensa in every family. That means every family has a third born, and the third born is always the negative person. But today's program, we're looking at Africa and the story of Africa. We realize that in Africa, every year there's a problem. And tonight, in Zimbabwe, there's a problem. I don't know whether it is a coup d'etat, because His Excellency Robert Mugabe was allowed to perform a state function. And when he went out there, he said, "The power granted me as President of the Republic." I'm quoting those words from His Excellency Robert Mugabe. So it means that he is still the president of Zimbabwe. But the army has taken control. That is in Zimbabwe. Here in Ghana, we have our own problems. Our budget has been presented. But beyond the budget, there's this age-long problem of mob justice. The latest that you can think of is Captain Mahama. When Captain Mahama was murdered at Dinchiro-Boase, so many issues came up. It appears that nobody is talking about it. What are you doing about that? Tonight, that is what we are going to do here. Zimbabwe and Ghana. Those two countries are going to be our focus. And my name is George Asikri. I'm here with Eribad Ibrahim. He is an international security analyst, and he's the CEO of Eribad Security Analyst. And good evening.
Good evening, George. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
And you know, it's been a long time we've been here with a lady.
Yeah, so...
and so I don't want to introduce them, so I want her to introduce herself. So you introduce yourself.
My name is Abigail Gerardi Mensah. I'm a final year student of the University of Ghana, doing a combined major in political science and English, and I'm the project coordinator of Kama Ghana.
Right. Abigail. Let me just call you Abigail for the purpose of this show.
Right.
How about you?
My name is Anthony Benjamin Adiaba. I'm also in the University of Ghana doing political science, and I'm the arts director for Project Kama Ghana.
Anthony and Abigail are joining us tonight. In 1980, I'm told Robert Mugabe became the leader of a successful revolution in Zimbabwe. Interestingly, nobody among us, no one was born.
Are you sure I wasn't born?
You were not born.
If you weren't born, that's one thing. But
I'm the oldest here,
you
and
can
that's
speak
a fact.
for Abi and
I'm the
and
oldest
then
here, and since Robert Mugabe took over, nobody was born.
Yeah.
Today, Robert Mugabe is not 3 years. The army thinks that there's a problem there, so they should come in and cleanse the system. And so the whole world is watching. Is it a coup d'etat? Is it an army cleansing the system? We all do not know. But for the action taken by Robert Mugabe yesterday, we would have said that the army has taken control. But that's their problem. But here in Ghana, what's our problem?
Okay.
Mob justice. How have we dealt with it? That is the trash of the program tonight.
Okay.
Once again, I'm George Asekwe. Thanks for your time tonight. I'll start with you,
Okay.
but let's move to Zimbabwe.
Okay, George.
When you look at the comic, or I'm sorry, comic, but when you look at the actions in Zimbabwe, how would you describe it?
Thank you, George, for having me as usual. It's always a pleasure to be here with you. And I must comment Abi and Ben. They just reminded me a few minutes ago that they were the group that invited me last year to speak on interfaith tolerance at the Political Science Department of University of Ghana. So it's a pleasure sharing this momentous platform with them. Issues of university students are very important to me, and earlier today I addressed a joint session of SRC leaders of tertiary institutions from across the country at Methodist University, because the National Union of Ghana Students is currently holding its Congress. I was witness to the division that plagued the former administration, and I urged them, after the reading of manifestos tonight, the election takes place tomorrow. We want to see a formidable and unified student front that will not only have a voice when there are hikes in utility tariffs on campus, but rather on issues of the economy and other national issues. So they should be united, and they should forget all the legal tussles and litigations that militate against the progress of the student front. George, the thick firmament hanging over the Zimbabwean issue still remains foggy. On a good day, when the military intervenes in a crisis like this one, there is a swift announcement that the regime has been torpedoed, has been toppled, and there is a new order. But so far, the head of the army has been quite, meticulous with his diction. He hasn't described this as a coup. He said he wants to clear the criminals around Robert Mugabe. So I would still say it's not too clear for us whether he's been deposed or not. But I believe whatever happens, he led the liberation struggle, and he's the final pillar of Pan-Africanism standing. And the moment we lose Mugabe, then we lose Pan-Africanism. And therefore they should, harken back to the contributions he's made as an individual and treat him in a dignified and humane way. And I believe pretty much that is what they are doing, because he's 93, demented and frail. So therefore you don't jostle with such an individual. You cajole the person out of power. So therefore I believe the Zimbabweans are behaving well. Earlier today there was a rally and that almost sought to besiege the residence of Robert Mugabe, but the army declined. They didn't agree to that, so it's a good sign. And again, George, we live in a world of choices. People try to draw parallels between Nelson Mandela and Mugabe. Mugabe started the struggle against the UK dominance, the British dominance in Rhodesia at the time, way before Nelson Mandela. But Mandela chose to do one term and bid good riddance to the toil and sweat of becoming president. But he has decided
Mandela
to
wasn't
stay.
the combatant.
Yes, of course, Mandela wasn't in the trenches fighting. But Mugabe almost paid the ultimate sacrifice. So therefore, if anything at all, if his wife wanted to act funny, and it hasn't been successful, I believe the dignified way in which they are treating him now is something that we should all commend. And then again, Boris Johnson, the UK Foreign Secretary, has also spoken to the issue in the House of Commons. I believe it is in the interest of the Brits that he leaves the political scene. But if that should be done, it should be done in a dignified way.
Well, this is Worldview. We are live on GBC 24, and we're discussing military takeovers and then mob action. And when it comes to military, you're looking at Zimbabwe, and mob action, we're looking at Ghana. And normally you'll be wondering, the young people, they are told to be the future leaders of Africa. But Abigail,
Yes.
a very young girl, I'm sure you're the youngest here. When you look at the continent of Africa, and you look at what is happening, particularly reference to Zimbabwe, and looking at the fact that the youth have been told that they are the future leaders of Africa, and what is happening in Zimbabwe, how do you feel?
Like my big brother here, Ebert, said, and I will reiterate, Mugabe has done very much for Zimbabwe, and so he needs to be treated, with dignity and as the human being that he is, first of all. Like he also said, he has paid the price for Zimbabwe, and so I don't think that in as much as you know, he has been brutally, you know, unfair in his regime. He should be treated with disdain. But he should be cajoled, like he said. He should be cajoled out of office, and the youth should also respect him and shouldn't, you know, get into violent acts over. This is a very simple thing that can be done if care is taken and if, you know, the measures that are put in place to do this are, you know, very keen on. So I believe that in as much as Mugabe has been like the Zimbabweans term it, the cause of all their problems, he still does not deserve to be treated mercilessly. He still does not deserve to be treated with disdain. He has done much for them. He spent 11 years in prison, you know, just right before and after the Liberation War, you know, in Rhodesia in the 1980s. I mean, 1979 before 1980 when they won independence. And so he should be treated as the human being that he is. And personally, I respect Mugabe so much. I mean, taking away the fact that his last term of office, I wouldn't say his last term because he still hasn't been ousted from power yet, but his contemporary, you know, way of ruling has not been the very best, you know, because there have been issues of economic mismanagement and everything in Zimbabwe. But like my big brother said, he should be treated with respect and be cajoled out of office.
So he should be seen as the boss until there's election. Well, as a political scientist, I understand you, but let me take your take, my brother.
I think that the issue here is that Mugabe is the patriarch of Zimbabwe. He is the father figure of the country. He has been the father figure for quite some time. So taking him away is synonymous to taking away Nkrumah from Ghana and taking away Gaddafi from Libya. So in contemporary times, no one wants to have a grand scandal of bloodshed and over-politicized confusion. So what the Zimbabwean military is trying to avoid is chaos and international intervention. They want to keep this internal. They want to make sure that Zimbabweans have the chance to get a leader that represents them, and they want to respect and protect the legacy that Mugabe has left for them. So in this case, I believe that the Zimbabweans, even though we are all quite unclear about the nature of the said coup or lack thereof, whether there's a coup or there's no coup, there's an ousting or there's no ousting, the fact that there's some kind of confusion is a big problem. But that there hasn't been any violence emanating from that confusion is laudable. And personally, I am proud of the Zimbabweans, and I hope that they maintain the precedents they've set with regards to that.
Do you see it as a coup?
Personally, I see it as a coup, but since the word hasn't been used officially, I have no authority on the matter.
You are a political scientist in the making, so you've got to listen to that. I watched the whole thing, I'm like, oh, sometimes the book people, they speak, and you wonder what they see, what is correct, is the reality. But everybody, do you see what is happening as a coup d'etat?
It could be said to be a soft coup.
Soft?
Yeah, or a subtle.
First time.
Yes, or a subtle coup.
So there should be there's something like a soft coup.
No, this is a coup that is subtle. In diplomatic circles, you can actually declare war without mentioning the word war.
Okay.
Yes, so the grandstanding that is done militarily, the saber rattling, that normally would characterize any deployment, would tell the adversary that indeed war has been declared. And I believe Mugabe attending a university graduation ceremony could have been well orchestrated.
Orchestrated?
Yes.
You listen to his speech?
Yes.
The man said, with the authority vested in me, quote unquote, as president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, I declared this.
No, your authority doesn't go beyond your nose. Especially when you are 93. Especially when you are 93. And since we have fellow young people here, social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube have played an important role in the whole of this. And therefore, for tight-sitting leaders on the continent that don't want to budge, like Yoweri Museveni and others, they should take a cue from this, that yes, young folks that are on Facebook that can share ideas. If this had happened when Mugabe was 40, for example, you can imagine the repressive reaction that would have come from the regime. But we live in the age of social media. Information travels faster than you think. So therefore, leaders that want to overstay their welcome should not take the youth of this continent for granted. And again, George, it goes to the heart of the discourse that, of course, this country should be left to determine its own destiny and its own fate. Someone asked a question, although with tongue-in-cheek, when I was earlier on a TV program this morning, and the UK Prime Minister doesn't have the right to take decisions without parleying with the Queen. How come the Queen has been there since Nkrumah's time, for God's sake, and nobody has changed her? And so therefore, the West should not cherry-pick which African leader is dictatorial and which is liberal or democratic for us. And so, by and large, the common denominator in all that we've said on this platform is that, yes, he may be chaperoned out of power, but it should be done with dignity, with respect, so that, of course, the legacy he leaves will be a good one. And Ben made quite a good point, that sometimes when you resist change, then you are creating an aperture of opportunity for Westerners to either incite people to start a rebellion from within, or they could potentially fund an invasion into your country.
Is that democracy?
So we want this to be as bloodless as possible.
And is that democracy? To pay the guy out of office?
No, I believe these acts are antithetical to the welfare of Africa and the Pan-African enterprise as well. So therefore, what is the AU saying? What is SADC, their version of ECOWAS for Southern Africa? What are the things they are saying to...
But what have they said in the past that make you think they can say something different?
Normally, it is those who do the jockeying are the white folks.
Okay.
Normally, that is what happens in most cases when there is a political imbroglio or an impasse like this one. But I believe, by and large, I am enjoying the playbook. It's been filled with suspense, but with not a single blood has been spilled.
Okay.
And we hope that there will be a reasonable closure to this political crisis.
Abigail, I don't want to go the feminist, the gender, or the female factor. But of course, anytime there's a problem, women suffer the worst consequences.
Yeah.
But as a woman and a political scientist, when you watch the whole drama, what comes to mind? Is it democracy that has been allowed to foster? Or you think that because the man is old, he should be out of office or ousted off the office?
Okay, first of all, this is a disclaimer that I don't like to be tagged as a feminist, although I support women, but I don't want to be tagged as feminist.
I like that.
Yes. To answer your question, I think that it's not democratic right now because the military, is taking steps that we can't term as democratic. But as a woman and as a female, from my point of view, I think that we've been saying, since we started the show, that all these processes should be taken and should be dealt with in a very respectful manner, in the most, amazing way, so that civilian rule can quickly be restored. And, I read something online about Grace Mugabe, and her issue is just one that makes all of us laugh. But as a woman, I don't support what she's really doing in Zimbabwe right now.
It doesn't favor you?
At all, because how, first of all, I don't know if it's true, but there are claims that she actually triggered, the ousting of the Vice President Emerson Mnangagwa from
Grace at an open rally said she would do everything to ensure that the Vice President was taken out of office.
And she did it.
Her prophecies came to life. So yes, even though you are a lady, it is a bit factual that what Grace's prophecies have come to be.
Have come to be, Prophet Grace. The rallying of, this whole clique of G40 the youthful population of the ZANU-PF party, I don't think is the best, because she's causing a division in the political party, and it's not going to be the best for them if they're to be united, you know, be at a united front to get this situation, this mess out of.
That's their problem. But let me come to you, my brother. You see, in Ghana, I read a book. Is it a book? But a Facebook article, quote unquote, and like, women are very difficult to understand. But when you look at the whole drama, Robert Mugabe married Grace, a lady he is about 40 years older than.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that if I come to say I want to marry you, say no. I'm not 40 years older than you, but do you foresee that the fall of Mugabe may be as a result of Grace?
Well, she issued a disclaimer that she wasn't a feminist, but I want to say that I am to an extent. I don't claim to be a feminist, because no matter how much I support support female struggles, I can't relate fully, because obviously I'm not female. But the problems that hurt women hurt men too. So ignoring them is just ignoring reality. But to be a realist in this situation, I would like to, most of us or all of us can see that this whole political grandstanding was catalyzed by Grace Mugabe's actions, her reactions, her statements in public, her mannerisms, the things she has done since she became First Lady, and the way she has maneuvered her place into second in line for the Zimbabwean regime. So we can't pinpoint that it is her fault that all this is happening, but she has played a massive captivating role in this. But I think we should look at the issue from the Zimbabwean point of view. As outsiders, we have to appreciate the unique context that they are coming from. They already have the ZANU-PF ruling the country since independence. They have, they've had several elections, and Mugabe has always won them. And
one election that has been disputed, doubted as credible.
Okay, but the point is, for politics is about compromise and competition and the ability to maneuver chaos into order. So I believe anytime there is disagreement, it's an opportunity to come out together with a solution that favors every party involved. So maybe what Grace is doing has triggered something, but I like to think as a pragmatist that at the end of the day...
Well, you are a pragmatist.
Yeah, I'm a lot of things. I like to think that at the end of the day, Zimbabwe can come out of this with a clearer vision, a clearer path to development, because democracy is only as strong as the trials it goes through. So you can't say you're a democracy when you don't go through some democratizing struggles and tragedies. So this is Zimbabwe's opportunity to become a stronger democracy.
Yeah, but that's how he thinks. But do you think it's the beginning of a new era?
And can I take a little bite?
Yes, you can.
On the issue of Grace?
Yes.
I saw a post on social media. People have been, trolling her. They christened her Grace Gucci Mugabe because they say she is a shopping freak. Yes. Yeah. I think first families on this continent should be very careful. Everybody knows that both the first and second families are taken care of by the taxpayer. So therefore, when you flaunt wealth, you flaunt opulence. We know of the sons and daughters of African leaders that live lavishly in the West, even according to Western standards. They are living lavishly. So when the poor folks see that they are struggling to eke out a living, and they are the taxpayers, and they can see the sons of Mugabe, and they've not been savvy enough with social media. There have been clips on social media of the two sons of Mugabe flaunting gold watches and then living luxuriously.
Which is within their rights.
And maybe there's a graduate on the streets of Harare that can't even secure a job.
But is that a justification? The fact that you cannot secure a job, does that mean that I cannot chill?
Not when the little money I make goes to feed the first family.
But is there a justification to the effect?
No, I think what we are seeing is pent-up feelings that have been bottled up.
Unless, of course, you are able to tell me that the people who are enjoying at the expense of the taxpayer in Zimbabwe are not qualified. If Albi is qualified, maybe a BA holder, bachelor's degree holder, and she's enjoying out there, and I have a bachelor's degree and I'm not enjoying, you cannot blame her,
George,
because she's related to me.
Do you know the MP for your area? And I don't know which area because you come from really
My
far.
My MP is Power, Bongo.
Yes. Do you know the MP for your area is enjoying all the largesse of the state because of the mandate you and other constituents have given him? Everybody would have known his way of life before going to parliament. Can you imagine if he and his kids and wife every morning will flaunt Rolex watches, show you the latest and most expensive champagne? People will get egged.
But democracy is such that you are not denied access to that. You'll be given the opportunity to do that.
You should be modest in all of that.
Is that democracy? You have access, equal access to equally go there and expose what you can.
George, take all the first families we've had since '92. The Rollinses, the Kufors, the Millses, the Atamils family, the Mahamas. Everybody knows without the taxpayers' money, they wouldn't have been as opulent as they are today. It's a reality of life. So therefore, for as long as the ordinary folks know that it is the bits and sprinkles they pay to the state that goes to take care of the first family, you just have to be modest how you flaunt your wealth in public. So therefore, the sons have not been too helpful, and I believe what we are seeing is a culmination of pent-up feelings of frustration with the first family over the past few years.
Abigail, do you see Mugabe better off stepping aside than continuing to be in office?
Yes. Definitely. I mean, the guy is 93 years old, for crying out loud. He's the world's oldest leader now.
But is there any justification that if you are not a 3, you will die before me?
No, not, I mean, I'm not talking on the lines of he dying before you or anybody, but on the lines of, you know, like my big brother said, the pent-up emotions and the pent-up feelings or the frustrations that, you know, Zimbabweans are voicing currently in the midst of all this is one thing that I think that he should consider and step down and then let someone else take over, you know,
but
quickly restore.
As a political scientist in the making, is that democracy?
You see, we are unclear about the whole situation right now, you know, like it's foggy. It's a bit foggy. We don't know if the coup has been instigated.
There's no coup now. Robert Mugabe is the president of the Republic of Zimbabwe.
Exactly. So I feel like then if the military are not going to instigate the coup, then there should be a democratic way of changing over powers.
There will be a Congress of ZANU-PF in December. So we are waiting for that. But as things, there's every indication that it's not a coup. Yesterday, Mugabe was at a graduation of the Open University. And listening to him, made a comment. The power vested in me as president of the Republic of Zimbabwe, I therefore declared this. And the people were there. It means he's still the president of Zimbabwe.
Even before we came here, I read something online that he and his wife have issued out a statement saying that they will fight until, even if they have to die, to make sure things go right, they will die for this. So I think that he's very determined to...
Abi, the sense I make of this is that when you juxtapose this with what happened in the case of Morsi and Sisi in Egypt. Sisi had served with the Egyptian embassy in UAE, in Saudi Arabia. So therefore the Saudis and the Emiratis were those who supported the coup against the Muslim Brotherhood. Normally for a tight-sitting leader that has been leader for decades, you bank your faith on the allegiance of the army. And from all indications, all the top generals are against Mugabe continuing. So therefore, he's seen as incapacitated.
Yeah.
He and his wife and his kids can say all that they want to say. But the pillars they would have rested their backs on, those pillars are no longer supporting them. So he can say all he wants. I wouldn't say they would consider him a comic, but don't take Mugabe serious now. He's not a man of his own.
What makes you think like that? The man we heard from his own voice as President of the Republic, he said it, referring to
It
himself.
doesn't matter what you say. When John Rawlings took over from Liman could have said anything on GBC. But for as long as the army was against him, there was no way. His position as president was no longer tenable.
Not because Rawlings had taken over GBC.
Yeah,
unfortunately, this
George. So the point I'm making is, George, don't take Mugabe for what he says. I think he's, all through and through incapacitated. He's been stripped of all his powers. They are just trying to have a dignified way of seeing him off the scene. And I believe this is a very good outcome for us.
You've been hearing that Grace has fled Zimbabwe. And when you hear that, how do you feel? She's a woman, and she's got the right, per the constitution of Zimbabwe, to become the president of Zimbabwe. And for that matter, the second female president of the republic in Africa. But we are hearing she's fled. When you hear that as a lady, how do you feel?
I feel, okay, can we take this from feminism out?
George, you're making a bit so uncomfortable.
I'm not making you a feminist. I'm just asking how you feel. You don't necessarily need to be a feminist.
Okay, my big brother said that the linchpins of Mugabe's regime right now, and we should consider the fact that the ZANU PF party, was formed as an as a result of an alliance between ZANU and then ZAPU, and so there was a political and a military alliance. And so if we take the military out, the pillars of the current political party in power have literally been shattered. And so Mugabe and his wife, being ostracized to South Africa, as certain claims have come out, I feel like it's in their best interest. I mean, although they are, right now, all that matters is that they are protected, from any possible violent eruptions, and that is all that matters to me right now, that they are protected.
Do you see Greece as a problem? And for that matter, a woman as a problem?
George, listen, George. I know you are not married, but on a normal day you would have had a fight with your wife. What have women done to you?
I'm not married. But you see, before I got in here, I was around the Flagstaff house, and somebody made a comment. Somebody was marrying in the Flagstaff house. Somebody was like, look at a guy who has got money and he's bringing trouble, referring to the person marrying. So I got the impression that those who are married,
that is too sexist.
Exactly.
That's
That's
I don't know if you are there, but I'm not there. I'm not too sure you are there, so you can't conclude. Do you see Grace as a problem? Because there were two friends, Robert Mugabe, the army chief, and then the vice president, Emerson. They were two friends who fought a successful battle.
40 years.
Then a woman comes in, and all of a sudden, the impression is being created as though the woman is the problem. Do you see that?
It's an age-old tragedy that for some reason on the continent and even off the continent, people blame women for problems that could have very easily been avoided if some measures had been put in place. Now, the issue was firstly that President Mugabe was not stepping down after several years. And now he has begun the process of stepping down, and now the issue is he's stepping down and handing over to someone who some claim is not qualified enough. Now, whether or not the woman is the problem is that as a democracy, the next in line must be popularly supported. Is Grace Mugabe popularly supported? From most indications, not as much as you would expect.
That's how you feel, because the youth of the ZANU-PF party, they think that Grace is popular. And the enemies within the party, according to the army, they feel that Grace is popular. And you think she's not?
I think from the reportage we are getting we are not in the country, and the reports we are getting is that Grace is only qualified by virtue of her authority or her position as First Lady. And to look at things from, I mean, we've seen First Ladies running for office very recently, even though the most recent example wasn't successful.
Well, anyway, Konadu Ajima Rawlings' birthday was yesterday, so let me say happy birthday to you, Mrs. Konadu Ajima Rawlings. You know you are not one of my favorites, but but do you see Mugabe as still a hero?
A hero, a villain, I think only time will tell. And again, it's been quite difficult to gauge the genuine feeling of the ordinary Zimbabwean on the street. And we get, you know, a mishmash of headlines coming from the country. You read one thing, this by the next you are reading something that is at variance with it. So therefore, I believe only time will tell. But this can be done in a very diplomatic, dignified and humane way, so that he leaves the political scene.
Interesting. I was saying something in Osu, and I was like, look, I said Mrs. Rawlings and Mr. Rawlings are not my favorite, but their daughter, Zenatu, is a very good friend. And people were like, what are you talking about? Let's move on. That's their problem. In Ghana, we have a problem with mob justice. Regardless of how we see Zimbabwe, it is within their domain. And if you have done journalism, proximity is a problem. If I have a problem with my girlfriend, it is more important in news more than Donald Trump having a problem with his country. But within Ghana, we have our own problem. We are not comfortable. Issues of mob justice will kill people with impunity. Ewudu Senya East, yesterday I was speaking to the municipal chief executive and the regional police commander, and it appears everything is getting out of hand, even though they are doing their best. But when you look at Ghana, mob justice is a problem. How will you assess how we have dealt with it so far?
Okay, thank you very much. I live by this quote, and I think I said it on the radio show that let he that will move the world first move himself. We've spoken about Zimbabwe, now let's talk about ourselves. How can we change this issue? Mob action in Ghana is not an issue that has poked its head in contemporary times. I mean, it's been with us. The whole issue of group dynamic, coming together in a group and achieving an aim, whether good or bad, has been in existence for a while now. Assessing how we have dealt with the issue of mob action, I feel like we haven't done very much, because as a country we forget a lot of things. One time it happens, we're riding on the waves, we're talking about it, and then the next minute there's silence everywhere. And so I feel like as a country we haven't really done much. I mean, as a people and as a government and as institutions, we haven't all done very well collectively. And there's so many things that we can put in place to ensure that this, pervasive act is solved. And so we haven't really done much as a country. No, not at all.
What do you think when you watch how we have handled mob issues in Ghana? Well, that's our problem. We don't have a problem of the army trying to come in, at least from 1993. I'm not sure you were born. I was born.
I think that we haven't done much, but the chief issue is that it's a culture of support for mob action. It's not just people killing people with impunity, or people just assuming that a criminal is guilty, so let's get rid of it. It's that we have made this a part and parcel of our culture. That's the first instinct, the first thing you do when there is a criminal in your midst is to degrade him, to dehumanize him, to deter others from doing it. But we still have a lot of mob incidents happening in the country, so obviously killing thieves has not solved anything. But we also have to realize that there's a constitution in the government. The people of Ghana have a constitution that has set out that every human being has dignity. Every human being is allowed to live life without fear of death or violence or degrading, violent death. So as a people, what we can do, or what I think we have failed to do, is to eradicate it from our culture.
But we have not been able to do that. Well, I'm a practicing journalist, and I handle issues on radio, on television. Interestingly, if you are in the media, we are one, just like politicians. I've heard people talk of anti-mob justice. Anytime there's a problem, I've heard of karma, and I'm told you are part. Yes. What have you done?
Okay, this isn't the first time we have worked on mob action in Ghana. I won't say fortunately or unfortunately. We started a campaign quite similar to what Karma is today on mob action earlier this year, and in the midst of it, or in the heat of it, or the incident at the Ntroboase happened, and a lot of people started giving us the audience that they were avoiding from the beginning, because it was now a hot topic. It was now an issue that was trending. They wanted people that were quote-unquote authorities on the issue. So what we can do is practically nothing. What we can do is start the conversation, which is something we've been doing quite a lot on the University of Ghana campus. We've created a dialogue, we've created a platform for people to share their the views that most people have, the reasons why they indulge in this culture, and all those things. So what we've managed to do now is to start a conversation. We hope that we can turn this conversation into action in the preceding weeks and months that follow, but everything starts step.
Well, Abigail,
yes.
Ethos, logos, pathos argument. What is that?
Okay, so this is an integrated part of our campaign.
Maybe another political scientist should be wondering, but she's a political scientist, so you explain that to me.
Okay, there are three things that we have lined up, as part of our campaign, because we want to appeal.
What's that campaign in the first place?
KAMA. The campaign is KAMA, and KAMA is an acronym for Choose Activism, Reject Mob Action. And like Benjamin said earlier, that we've identified two issues via research. That first of all, there's a lack of mainstream conversation about mob action, and like I said before, that unless there's an issue, a national issue for that matter, we ride on the waves of mob action. Let's stop this, let's do this. But then the issue dies down, we go silent. And then secondly, the anomaly of thought and action of Ghanaians. Through our research, we got to find out that a lot of people actually think that mob action is bad. But because of certain things, certain factors, which includes psychological factors, which includes the lack of public faith in our institutions, the dysfunctional nature of our institutions, has caused a lot of people to indulge in mob action. And so our campaign is KAMA. Now, Ethos, Logos, Pathos is the three ways we came up with to address our campaign. Now, Ethos, Pathos is an appeal to the emotions of people. Appealing to the emotions of people, we believe that will move the people, in the bid to stand against violent extremism, which mob action counts as, for that matter. The Captain Mahama issue hit all of us, it hits nerves, it hits everybody. Was just, I wasn't in the country at the time, but when I heard it, I was sitting behind the laptop and I just started crying, especially when his wife was reading, her speech, the tribute, sorry. So Pathos, we've included Pathos in our campaign to appeal to the emotions of people, that mob action could happen to anybody. Now, we're not looking at it, from the angle that you are a thief, you deserve to be beaten. Fine, it's not good. But what if you are not a thief, but you are beaten to death? You understand? The whole mistaken identity, which Captain Mahama was unfortunately a victim of. So that is why we are appealing to the emotions of people, to move people to stand with us. That's the first one, that's Pathos. Logos is appealing to logic. Okay. That as a human being, and for me as a human rights activist, one of the hallmarks of every human being who is an activist is the respect for human rights. And so if you appeal to logic, you're appealing to the fact that people deserve to be treated with dignity and as the human beings as they are. First of all, nobody deserves to die by a group of people lynching them we have a constitution, we have rules, we have institutions.
What have you been doing? You talk of this, but what have you been doing practically?
It's an integrated online campaign. Our audience is largely on social media. Our mates on campus have been following our social media accounts. We've been tweeting, we've been Facebooking, we've been Instagramming. We've been sharing a lot of information. We've been sharing news, facts, articles.
That's what you do, but do you have any support, any help from stakeholders?
We have had help from stakeholders in the past, but...
In the past?
Yes.
But currently?
Currently we are working towards an event this Tuesday, which would be a climax of sorts for the Karma campaign and also a launch for the broader campaign. That's
certainly you come out with opposition. Any progress on opposition so far?
For this current campaign, we haven't experienced any opposition, but for the last mob action campaign we embarked on, we were described as cockroaches at a point.
Cockroaches?
People threatened to come to our events to beat us up because they see a campaign against mob action as a campaign in support of thieves and criminals.
Yeah.
So if you are supporting thieves, you are automatically a thief. And what do we do to thieves in Ghana? We beat them and we kill them.
Interestingly, I'm told, but Madam Director, our time is running up. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up this show at this time. But mob action, we have to move from Zimbabwe to mob action. But anyway, when you look at mob action and the campaign, that's our problem anyway in Ghana. How will you assess the progress?
Okay, I would want to comment Karma and the wonderful things the young brains we have today are doing to contribute their widow's mite or what little they can in terms of advocacy to raise an awareness. In fact, when all of us saw the grisly footage, so poignant as it was of the incineration of the corpse of Major Mahama, all of us were moved. So therefore there was a hue and cry about the need for us to tackle what later was termed as mob injustice. For the while that I was in Legon, I was in Ekwafo Hall at that time.
Okay. Ekwafo Hall?
Ekwafo Hall.
Promise.
Yes. Anytime we are arrested...
Unfortunately, that was my hall when I went there the first time.
Yes.
And I said unfortunately.
Anytime we arrested an infiltrator, a thief, coming to steal laptops or anything, some of the boys would say we should beat the person to a pulp. Others would say we should hand him over to the police station. But sometimes after arresting somebody, the person would be running towards the police station, knowing so well that as soon as he gets there, then the guys would stop beating him. So therefore, I believe there was this talk that it was un-Ghanaian to pounce on people and kill them. But some of these mob actions were characterized by spontaneity. And a point that has been so amply made, and that has been amplified by Abby, that we've lost confidence in the criminal justice system. You see a thief, and I'm sure they are in school. You see someone who just stole a laptop, you know this guy stole the laptop. By the end of the day, there's really no punitive measure to serve as a deterrent, so the next person in line does not steal. So therefore, instead of handing the person over to law enforcement, people would want to teach him a lesson, quote unquote. But when you overteach a lesson, you kill the person. So fundamentally, what I'm saying is that yes, is a canker. The fact that it's not making screaming headlines doesn't mean it's not a thorny issue. People continue to suffer lynching. It's a continuous thing. Mohammed's case was high profile. That was why it became a national discussion. A lot more people. You are going home late at night. People have just left a study group. They want to grab something from the shopping mall. You are not known to everybody. Someone can raise an alarm. And if people pounce on you, you could also suffer lynching. So therefore, we commend Karma, and I believe they shouldn't let up on the momentum. They should continue pushing harder and harder until enough awareness is created.
Tony, let me come to you. Unfortunately, he was in Ekwafo Hall.
And you call that unfortunate? What do you mean by that?
The first time I got admission to the University of Ghana, I was sad because I was affiliated with Ekwafo Hall. I thought I should be part of the Commonwealth Hall. So I didn't actually honor that admission.
Yes.
The second year I applied, I got Commonwealth Hall. And I feel that as a guy, if you get admission to the University of Ghana and you are affiliated to Commonwealth Board, then you are a student of the University of Ghana. But when you look at what you have done, campus activities, wrapping up your last month, what have you done?
To be honest, we haven't done as much as we would like to. But there's a solution to every problem, and our solution is we have put everything together in a single tool to be administered on campus this Tuesday. We have put together a short documentary which is animated, so we can assess students' reactions to it first as a pilot and then later to implement it on a grander scale. So before students watch the animation, their reactions, after they watch it, their reactions, we want the animation to be a simple message that allows people to choose activism as a solution to being mobsters, because it's better to have a society where I feel safe wherever I am. I'm able to use the little things around me to effect change rather than always resorting to violence and punitive measures. To be able to use our voice, our sense of purpose, our civic responsibility to impact change. So what we have done, what we are about to do, is to release this video, but we've been working on it this whole time. That is why we haven't been able to do too much. But we believe it's just the first step in a very, very long journey, and hopefully at the end of the day we will start by letting our mates choose activism instead of mob action.
Unfortunately, you cannot be in Commonwealth, which is the whole of the University of Ghana, and certainly the best university in Ghana. Exactly. So, what will you see as your final remarks, regardless of comments and what you've done?
I mean, regardless of the fact that we haven't been able to do as much as we would, we have done some laudable things, and I believe we need to mention that we were invited to a summit, an inspirational summit organized at the SRC Union Building, and we're able to inspire students to be activists, because you can't be silent on this matter, because it borders on national lines. Everybody inclusive, and so we have done that. We've been able to go to certain classes in University of Ghana. We've spoken to the students, we've encouraged them. Online we've done a lot, although we haven't done much. And so, like Benjamin said, we have an event on Tuesday at the University of Ghana SRC Union Building. We've put together an animation show which includes the Ethos Logos Pathos argument that I couldn't get the chance to go into detail about.
You are a lady.
And then the final one was the ethos, which is appeal to ethics.
Okay.
And so the culture of mob action, we want to uproot the support of, this support for the culture of mob action. So we are going to appeal to the ethics of people and try to change the ethics of people with regards to this matter. And so we have an animation show on Tuesday. We urge the university community to show up in their numbers. Let's watch this. There are going to be some panelists, some stakeholders, in our national setting to come and talk to us. I think we have the police, we have a lawyer, we have some dignitaries. We can even invite our big brother here. It's a very opportune time to invite him, to discuss, issues that concern all of us, because this country belongs to us, whatever you do. Since I was a child, I've always, and I'm still a child, but I've always told my parents that I don't want to live in Ghana, I want to leave Ghana. But I've realized that if I leave Ghana, who is going to make Ghana better for posterity? And so I urge the university community.
You've changed your mind to stay in Ghana.
Not to stay in Ghana, but to help Ghana and live.
Well, you've changed your mind to stay in Ghana,
yes,
and be part of Ghana.
And be part of
the story
Ghana.
of
Exactly,
Ghana.
and contribute my quota. And so we urge the university community to come out in their numbers to support us and to learn something about mob action. And I encourage everyone to be activists. And that is the whole, headlining message of our campaign, activism, which is the best thing for all of us.
Thank you very much for your time on our studios tonight, and it's been a good thing. And let me say special thanks to Dr. Bosman Asare, who is the head of the Department of Political Science, University of Ghana. He's been trying as much as possible to help the young ones to stay within and help effect a change. And I feel that that is good. If you run out, what are you building? This is Ghana, and this is for us. The President of the Republic said, our identity. So if you go out, who will build your identity for us? So it's our responsibility to build Ghana for Ghana. So thank you very much for coming. It's interesting seeing younger people trying to think Ghana.
So you won't give me the opportunity to say my last name.
So do that. Our time is up.
Abby says she wants to be a part of those who will lay the bricks of this country. And in the past week, the U.S. ambassador gave me an award. Other people were giving awards, but for a moment I was thinking...
He didn't invite me, so I'm
I was thinking it took the selflessness of Americans to make America how great it is today. It will take the toil and sweat of Ghanaians and our sacrifice to make Ghana even greater. I think Ghana can be greater than the U.S.
And the president has said that.
Yes, so therefore let's keep at it. Let's keep working. I don't like this aura of pessimism that it won't work. The future is bleak. Look at what young people are doing at this, stage in their lives. So there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. Let's keep working hard. Let's be selfless. Cut down on the corruption. Country love should be way above partisan love, and I believe we will get to the promised land.
Ghana can work again. Do your part. Let me do your part, my part, and it will work. The president has said it. If you are in the university, please help the younger ones to contribute in making the Ghana you want to do. I'm here, POSA. They call it, how do you say it?
POSA. As in our slogan.
Yes.
Always ahead.
Always ahead.
Yeah.
So the other universities and tertiary institutions, please take up the fight. Once you succeed in inculcating into the younger ones Ghana first, as the president, Nana Akufo-Addo has said, Ghana first. Sunday last week, I was with former President Mahama in the church, and he says, we have the capacity to build a better Ghana. And it appears that the two, I know Mahama and Akufo-Addo are very good friends. You don't know, but I know that. They all think that we can do better. Zimbabwe, they have their problems there. Ignore them. Let's build a better Ghana so that they will move from Zimbabwe to Ghana to make Ghana best. But remember, in all these, you have to be a responsible Ghanaian. Pay your taxes. Next year, TV license. The budget has been presented. If you don't pay your taxes, Ghana cannot move on. And TV license is a statutory tax. If you pay your TV license, you are not paying that to GTV, and that's the misconception people have been having. You are paying simply license for a reception to television set in Ghana. So you are not paying it to GTV. You are paying TV license to Ghana, and the state, through the Parliament of Ghana, has made it possible for you to pay that through the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation. I have paid mine. You can pay yours. Ladies,
we don't have TV.
We don't have TV.
Lady and gentlemen, well, you are students, so I have paid mine. Iribad, I know, has paid his. I know the former president of the Republic, John Ajekun Kufuor, he has paid his TV license. I don't know whether J.J. Rawlings has paid it. J.J. Rawlings and Mrs. Kunadu, if you haven't paid your license, come to tell us. But thank you very much for your time on a more serious note. My name is George Asekri. I've been here this evening with Iribad Ibrahim. Is an international security analyst and is the CEO of Iribad Security Consult. Abigail Gerard Mensah, that name, you know, I have problem pronouncing, is Kama Ghana, University of Ghana, is the project coordinator, and then Anthony Benjamin Adieba is the Kama Ghana. Abigail